Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Chargers Analytics with Arjun. This is going to be my second episode of the week, but this is not going to be about the Washington football team or the Dallas Cowboys. This is going to be about the Chargers and what to expect from them in the season overall. Now, I think there's a wide bucket of optimism from the entire fan base going into this season. We found the franchise quarterback. Brandon Staley has looked like a godsend and really hasn't seemed to do anything wrong. The team looks relatively healthy. I'm saying relatively because I'm recording this on Wednesday, and Austin Eckler was reported to have been working with the trainers. So hopefully everything is good there. And by the time I upload to YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this to. But I'm really here to just put to rest, my thoughts throughout the entire offseason about, is this team a Super Bowl caliber team? And I think every fan for the Chargers has gone through a lot, especially the last 2 years where, we've had a losing record, even though we've had very talented teams and we just seem to lose games at the end in improbable ways. And it does seem like we have a very talented team on both sides of the ball. Special teams, we don't know how that's going to turn out. But offensively and defensively, we have stars at key positions, and that's what you really need in this league. If you look at the Chiefs, a very top-heavy roster, but they are projected again to make the Super Bowl and even potentially win because they have guys like Mahomes, Tyreek, Travis Kelce, Tyrann Mathieu, guys who are important players at important positions of need. So let's just start off with this. Are the Chargers Super Bowl contenders? And if you ask me that, I say yes. I actually do believe that there's a shot for them to be Super Bowl champions. The thing I love about the NFL is anyone can win the Super Bowl, right? This is not college where if you lose one or two games, you're out of the playoff race. This is not college, right? This is the NFL. Every team has an equal chance of winning the Super Bowl. You have the salary cap. There's no recruiting stuff that goes under the table or anything. And the Chargers are in that contention or in that tier, I would say tier three, to the point where they could contend for a Super Bowl, right? There is no doubt in my mind that they have the talent. It's just, can they adapt to a new offense? Is Brandon Staley as good as advertised? Is he going to be able to live up to the hype? Will Justin Herbert just continue to ascend? Those are all questions that we really have no answers to because we haven't seen a situation like this in a while for the Chargers. But right now, there is a really good chance that I think, number one, they make the playoffs. And number two, they could make the Super Bowl if everything goes right. So I'm not here to just talk to the camera. I'm also here to just share a couple of things I was seeing on Twitter, on other websites, if this loads. Okay. The first thing I wanted to look at is some things that ESPN, 538, and Football Outsiders did the past couple of days when it came to predicting how quarterbacks in the NFL were going to play over the course of the season. So they just ran their own models using the statistics and the data that they have within their own companies. So 538 uses their ELO QB rating model. Football Outsiders uses their DVOA model, which stands for defensive variance over adjusted, something like that. And ESPN uses their FPI model. And obviously, they have a bunch of other factors going into it. I'm sure EPA, which is something I've talked about in almost every single video, that goes into these models. But they ran these models, and usually they've run it over a couple of years to make sure that it's accurate or it's somewhat predictive going into the season. So as you can see, Justin Herbert showed up pretty high when it comes to the composite score of all three rankings. So he actually shows up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He shows up 8th in these cumulative rankings, which is a pretty good sign, for a guy that's faced so much scrutiny from the analytics community. And these three companies are big football analytics companies, or at least they have resources dedicated to football analytics. He shows up pretty highly, which is a pretty good sign. So let's start with 538. 538, he's ranked 11th per their 538 ELO rankings. You would have to go check out 538 specifically to see, what goes into their ELO rankings. I'm not going to go too much into it, but I think 11th is a really good spot for him. And that's honestly kind of where I would put him, either in that like 11, 10, or 9 area when it comes to ranking quarterbacks. ESPN, who Seth Walder and Brian Burke, two guys who I have a ton of respect for, who put out a lot of great stuff on Twitter and on ESPN in terms of writing content. Their model has Justin Herbert at 6. Now, I think that is a bit high in terms of where you would rank him right now. But when we're talking about predictions and projections, he can easily finish as the 6th best quarterback coming out of the 2021 season. And that would not surprise me. And I think the thing with ESPN, they use a variety of stats and data to go into that they put in the model. So number one is their QBR rating, which was, I think, created by a couple of guys about 10 years ago, and they've continued to update it. I'm pretty sure EPA, remember, expected points added, that goes into this model. And also there was a stat that I looked up on ESPN. If you go to ESPN, NFL stats, and then total QBR, there's a stat there called PW or PAA, which I believe stands for passing or passer above average. And it puts all QBs in like a neutral field and says this quarterback performed higher or lower above average. And Justin Herbert actually finished 5th when it came to PAA last year, which is a really good sign. And, ESPN has their run block and pass block win rate models and rates and rankings. And as we know, the Chargers finished like 31st and 32nd respectively in run blocking, or in pass blocking and run blocking. So for Justin Herbert to have the 5th best PAA speaks volumes about how he performed behind such a bad offensive line last year. And honestly, I think that's why he showed up pretty highly in ESPN's model, just because number one, they upgraded that offensive line to where hopefully they won't be in that bottom 5 in either of those facets of the game anymore. And number two, their offensive weapons did get, I would say, a little bit better, adding Josh Palmer. Jared Cook might be a little bit of a better receiver than Hunter Henry. And finally, a Football Outsiders DVOA metric predicted that Justin Herbert would have like the 14th best season. I wouldn't, again, every model has their way of going about things. There's no right or wrong answer to this, right? Josh Allen is ranked 7th by their metric, and he had one of the best statistical seasons last year in terms of efficiency and accuracy. So for Herbert to finish 14th, that's honestly nothing to worry about. And I'm not sure how much Football Outsiders takes in offensive line play like ESPN does, because ESPN does have the tracking data for offensive line play to get run block and pass block win rates. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm going to zoom out if anyone wants to pause and look at like every single quarterback. All right, let's move on to some NFL win total predictions. Let's go back to 538 for this. I believe Josh Hermsmeyer and his team at 538 put this together, obviously using some of their metrics, their ELO ratings. They had the Chargers finishing 9-8, which honestly, that seems to be the consensus, or one of the more popular record predictions given to the Chargers. I know Daniel Popper has said multiple times in his live streams that they're probably going to go 9-8, and it's a fair rating. Like, this is a team with a new head coach, new offensive coordinator. We don't know how this is going to gel, especially to start the year. And I do feel like 9-8 is a pretty solid record to give them. 48% chance to make the playoffs, 20% chance to win the division, which honestly, that's pretty good odds given, how good the Chiefs are with Patrick Mahomes and their offensive arsenal. And then 3% chance to win the Super Bowl. Again, Justin Herbert's QB rank per 538 was 11th. So that's that. Remember, 9-8 for 538. The next thing, or the next prediction I'm going to look at, is actually by a guy called Santiago Casanova. He goes on Twitter by BRotoFF Casanova. Again, BRotoFF Casanova. He's a fantasy football writer and a web developer, but he's a very good coder, and he does stuff like this on the side. He created his own model using whatever data he wanted to use for this. He had the Chargers going 10-7, or his model had them projected to win 9.995 games. Obviously, that's not a real number, so you round either up or down, depending on how close you are, above 0.5, below 0.5. So they are projected to win 10 games by this model. They are also projected to make the playoffs around 56% of the time and win the Super Bowl around 3% of the time. So very similar odds to 538, which I thought was pretty interesting. And we're going to go to the final one, The Athletic. This was by Ethan Douglas. Huge fan of his work. Very good guy in terms of like looking at some of the data that he provides. He's actually a big Chiefs fan, so me and him have talked in the past, and I'm really looking forward to see what else he does this season. But this was his. I know it says 2020 and then 2021 projected wins, but this is for this upcoming year. His model has the Chargers finishing 8-9, but it was a little bit concerning given that the Rams also had an 8-9 projection. And I'm going to end off with this or end off like the prediction, looking at other people's predictions by saying, predicting a team's wins is extremely tough. And that's number one. Number two, you're also adding the fact that the Chargers are going through a whole new coaching change on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. They're getting back key pieces like Derwin James and Brian Bulaga from injuries that cost them most, if not all, the season, like they did for Derwin James. So like to predict their impact on the Chargers and on the game of football, it's tough. So, when we've read these NFL record predictions, or we listen to like Good Morning Football or NFL Network saying that the Chargers could be a playoff contender, or, we don't know what the Chargers are going to be. And if you listen to like PFF or something, and they say, like the Chargers, they're going to falter because Justin Herbert is going to regress he's going to regress this year because he was so good under pressure. That's because there are some things that are just so volatile that we can't really predict what's going to happen. And so, when you look at a record prediction like this and you're like, oh, damn, we're finishing 8-9. And then you're like, the Raiders are finishing 9-8, and you get mad about it. Just realize that some things that are consistent are easier to predict. Derek Carr staying on as quarterback. John Gruden is still the head coach slash play caller. And the Chargers are, they have Justin Herbert, but now they have Joe Lombardi, Brandon Staley. And so there are going to be some inconsistencies with models. Not every model is going to be 100% correct. If that was the case, then whoever makes 100% correct model is going to be like a billionaire when it comes to like betting in the market. So to cap it off, are the Chargers Super Bowl contenders? Yes. Is it likely that they'll win the Super Bowl? Probably not. Most of the models had them below a 5% chance to win the Super Bowl, which honestly is fair. We just don't know what this team is going to look like, how the offense or defense will play out. And while it is very exciting to say that, Justin Herbert is a stud rookie of the year, potential MVP candidate, he could also, struggle in this new offensive system. Drew Brees, it took him at least 2 or 3 years to finally grasp that complex Saints system. And I do believe in Justin Herbert to get it done. But it is one of those things where we'll have to see it first before we start piling on this bandwagon that the Chargers are Super Bowl contenders. So that about wraps it up. This will be my last video until the NFL season, I believe. Hopefully we'll be able to see this before Sunday. You guys will be able to see this before Sunday when we play the Washington football team. If you haven't gone and checked out my preview on that, I did like an analytics-based preview for the Washington football team. Just go click on the channel, make sure to subscribe, and then also check out that video because that has a lot of data and a lot of the stats that you could want to see to preview the Washington football team. So that about wraps it up. Thank you guys for watching. And with that, as always, bolts up.